Hey everyone, it's Mark Ferguson with Invest for More, back with another rental property video. Just purchased my 26th rental property, which is a commercial property and 3 houses. So it's 3 smaller houses and a 2,800 square foot, 100 and some odd year brick commercial building. We bought it for $410,000, which I think is an absolute steal. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how I used a 1031 exchange to buy it. I sold another rental property that I bought for $134,000 in 2015. I sold that for $270,000 this month. Then we did the 1031 exchange. I bought this property a few weeks later. So one great thing about commercial is I have 3 months to close on some of these deals, so I could get it under contract, then sell my other property, and then do the 1031 exchange. And I'm also going to talk about why I'm buying this property as far as cash flow and possible development potential. It sits on a highway. And I wasn't sure this deal is going to get done this year. I bought it yesterday, although you might be seeing this video a little later, in 2019 still. And for purely ego reasons, I wanted to buy it in 2019, just to say I bought 4 more commercial properties and $1.3 million in value. One of my goals was to buy basically $1.5 million in value, so I didn't get there, but I came really close. But there were some code violations that were being levied by the city, which I didn't even know about until the day of closing, for equipment there. Apparently some people were camping there. I have lots of camper stories. And cars and vehicles. So most of the stuff was removed by the seller, had so much stuff there. I should have a video of that beforehand. But then some of the tenants' cars were still there, creating lien violations as well because they were sitting there not movable, not drivable. And they want to know if I want to delay closing, try and work on that. And as a show of goodwill, I decided, hey, I'm just going to buy it. Let's get it done. Not going to ask for any discounts, any credits or anything. Just buy it. And one reason I did that is because the agent who had this listed, I've done business with before, had a $1.8 million project under contract earlier this year that we actually backed out of for a number of reasons, including the square footage was listed wrong. But I wanted to create some goodwill with this agent because maybe in the future, which I know we'll be doing business together, he'll be like, oh, hey, that Mark guy, he's so easy to work with. He'll talk to his sellers, tell him how great I am, and maybe we'll do some more deals that way. So let's get right to the property. I'll show you what it looks like right now. Hey, it's Mark Ferguson with Invest for More, standing outside rental property number 26 that I just purchased yesterday. All right, so here is rental property number 26, or at least part of it. That is about a 2,800 square foot commercial building. As you can see, it's kind of a cool old brick building. Now it's a car repair shop, and not sure if that use is exactly legal, but the city is okay with it right now. We are in Evans, Colorado, and that is not all that comes up with this property. That house, that garage came with it as well, and there's another house and another house over there that came with it too. So I purchased all of this for $410,000. It was for sale on LoopNet for $430,000. Been for sale for a while. A lot of people might think it's kind of crazy to buy 3 not so amazing houses in an old commercial shop, but the cheapest house for sale within 15 miles of here right now is $180,000. So I think we got a pretty good deal, and they're all rented right now as well. So that's rented for, I don't know the exact rents on each house, but $650, $700, and $750 for the houses, and that's rented for $1,600 right now. So it actually cash flows and makes money as it sits, and those rents are extremely low based on many factors. One, they should be for more, but the houses need some work. So I'll talk about the houses, development potential, what all comes with this, and what my plans are here as well. Now, if we walk over here, it's noisy because that's a 4-lane major highway, and the city of Evans, where we're at, actually wants this to all be redeveloped into kind of a hip urban area. Now, whether that happens or is realistic, that's something to be debated. But this is zoned for commercial, light commercial. So ideally, they want like retail with residential lofts above it built here, which I don't know when that will happen, but having all this land and property right on the highway provides some future development possibilities. As you can see, not much is being developed right now, but it's a very busy road, and there's a corner right there with a street coming off the highway. So we have a corner frontage on the highway. I think there's about 1.5 acres of land total here. But the interesting thing, or not so interesting, kind of annoying, this right here, this dirt patch that goes over there to that dirt road, this is a city street right here, and the city owns it. The other interesting thing is that little tiny triangle right here is owned by the Colorado Department of Transportation. So there are a few obstacles if you want to develop it. However, supposedly, which makes sense, CDOT does not want this because it's obviously very small and useless to them. And the city, if we do redevelop this land, is willing to give up this street and include it as part of this little parcel if we're going to develop it. They won't just give it to us now, but if everything's torn down and they decide to build something new, they said they would give this to us so we could have one big parcel. You can see that's the back of the commercial building there as I fall into the snow. There's another one of the little houses there, and the other house over there. That white shop building back there is not included, but the houses are. Kind of a neat property. That house right there, they're all, 100 years old, no basements, small, but they're not, that one's not in horrible shape, but it has no central heat. I've been in all of them. This one really isn't too bad either. It has newer electrical service, newer furnace, but very small, as you can see. This building is very cool with the brick. It's not bad inside either for commercial property. That one is probably the worst, the biggest, but pretty beat up. No closets in the bedrooms, very low ceilings on part of it. Kind of has some weird additions, and the garage is kind of beat up too. However, getting something this cheap, you're not going to have really, really nice stuff. So the plan is to keep this rented for now, keep these rented for now, and then at some point maybe talk to the tenants about raising rents, improving the properties, making them nicer, and then we can increase the prices and go from there. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to show you some of the other development along this road and go from there, and then talk to you some more about the numbers and how we did a 1031 exchange as well. Here you can see the property from overhead. Here is the corner I was talking about, the highway. That's the house with the garage. That's the commercial property. You can see it there. And then this parcel here is the house and another house there. And then this is that triangle from CDOT. So it might be a little bigger than that fence. It's just hard to say because these lines aren't exact. They all kind of move west a little from where they are. And then this right here, that's the city road that goes through. So, oh yeah, and this little corner too, I guess the city owns as well. Or maybe not. Ed Baird. But that supposedly would go with this whole chunk too. So you would have this whole corner kind of right here if you wanted to develop it. Okay, so here we are coming into Greeley. I was going to kind of show you where my property is, Greeley and Evans, from the very beginning. And you can see this area is not the best for your first impression coming into a town. If you're coming from the west side, it's much nicer. And I think that's why Evans wants to redo this whole corridor into something different. And we'll see if that happens and how that works out. You can see that used to be like a putt-putt golf and go-kart place. It's been vacant for a long time. And then over here is kind of another car place. Then there's some nicer industrial commercial stuff over there. There's a giant oversized tractor in front of us. And then my property is right here. So it's kind of in the beginning of coming here. So if it ever does get developed, I think it would be a great location. Just depends on if that ever happens and when it happens. I don't think I want to be the one to develop it. I think that's something I'd leave up to somebody else, but we'll see. Maybe things will be completely different in 10 years and I'll be a giant commercial developer, who knows. I'm gonna keep going this way too, just to keep showing you. All this is zoned for kind of commercial, not industrial, commercial, either high or low density. So all of it's not really used for what it's supposed to be used for right now. And over here is really interesting as well. You can see they're tearing down, that's a big hotel there, but they're tearing down buildings here. And there was an RV shop, a big kind of warehouse with a bunch of individual shops, and a strip mall with a little grocery store. And what's funny is the city bought those parcels. The city of Evans bought those properties and decided to tear them down, and that it would be more marketable to a developer if it was a vacant lot instead of those properties. I don't always agree with that, and I think the warehouse was really cool and would have been a perfect investment for me because it was probably 20,000 square feet with individual shop space, exactly what is in demand right now rent-wise. But before I could do anything, the city bought it and has torn it down, as you can see. So I'll show you this here, and then that gives you an idea of the location we're at, which is not, you know, as you can see, a lot of industrial stuff now, but that gas station they did just build a couple years ago. Family Dollar's newer. There's lots of nice new apartments up on that hill up there that you probably can't see because I'm not doing a very good job of filming. And over here, that's where the strip mall was. Tore it down. Another building up here they tore down, and now they're kind of assuming someone's going to buy this whole corner and redevelop it into something. And we shall see if that happens. I found some of the properties that Evans is buying. So this is Highway 85, the road I was driving down. My property is down here a little bit. This is the property they tore down. So you can see the strip mall, which was in pretty decent shape. They always say, oh, it has asbestos, you have to tear it down. I disagree with that. But anyway, that building there, there's a building here, warehouse here with individual shop spaces. That's the one I really would have loved to buy. And that's the old RV sales place with all this land. So they tore all that down, and they're going to sell it, hopefully, to somebody who will redevelop it. Well, right across the street is another site they did the same thing with. They bought this for $450,000 in 2016, and it's been for sale off and on since then, basically saying you have to tear down these buildings and redevelop it into something that looks like this. That is their rendition of what they want this Highway 85 corridor to look like. As you can see, it's a lot prettier than it is now. And not to be too picky, but that looks like a right angle right there, and this is not a right angle. That's got some angle to it. But anyway, that's what they're looking to do, and this is kind of what they want to do on my property too. This whole section along here, they want it completely different. So we'll see if any of this actually happens. As I said, this has been kind of for sale off and on for 3, almost 4 years now, and there have been no takers, so it was surprising to me that they want to do the same thing over here, and we'll see how long those two sites sit there. Here's the house I sold in the 1031 exchange. So I've got quite a few videos of it that I'll link to, but had that since 2014, bought it for $134 back then, rented it from $1,400 to $1,600 a month. We sold it for $270. We actually had it under contract for $275, but the appraisal came in at 270, so we ended up selling it for 270. Had $155,000 in proceeds from this sale that we used to buy the new commercial rental and 3 other houses. So ended up using all that money for the new one. You have to do that in a 1031 exchange, and had a private loan for the rest of the money. So I actually ended up bringing $0 to closing and had $0 come back to me, because you shouldn't have money come back to you at closing for a 1031 either. So the process went fairly smooth. It's nice buying commercial because I can put the closing out 3 months, which is fairly common. And then I have time to list this house and sell it while that's happening. So instead of listing a house, selling it, and then deciding what to buy, I decided what to buy, listed this house, sold it, and then was able to close on the new property a couple weeks later. Here's a breakdown of the total deal. I do a lot of these memes on Instagram, so make sure you follow Invest for More on Instagram. Like I said, 1031 exchange. So rental property number 14, I bought for $134,000 in 2015. We had it rented from $1,400 to $1,600 at the end. We remodeled it twice, spending about $20,000 total, maybe a little more. The first time we had some renters who weren't amazing. We had to put new carpet, new paint, nothing crazy. And then the second time we did it before we sold it. So we probably wouldn't have spent that much money if we were going to re-rent it. However, since we were selling it, we needed to put new carpet in, new paint. We redid the kitchen, redid windows, we didn't do much to the bath, but a little bit. So we spent much more because we planned to sell it than if we had rented it. So I don't want to get people confused saying you have to spend that much money on rentals when you fix them up. It can happen, but not always. And then we sold it for $270,000 in 2019, which just happened, and I ended up getting $155,000 in cash from the sale, and all of that has to go into the next property. So I have an article on 1031 exchanges. I have another video on 1031 exchanges. I'll link to that, or just search Invest for More and 1031 exchange, and those will pop up. So here's rental property number 26. Bought it for $410,000. It was listed for $430,000, so we got a little bit below list. It was on LoopNet for months, just sitting there. I think a lot of people were worried about the properties, as you could see, the condition, things like that. But I still think it's a great deal. I used the $155,000 for the 1031 and a private loan, and then there's one commercial unit, which is right there, and the 3 houses, which you saw. And total rents are about $3,500. I'm not sure I had the right numbers when I first mentioned it, but it's $600, $650, $700, and then $1,600 a month for this one. So even with those total rents, it's a good deal, and I'll show you why here in a second with my cap rate calculator. But we can raise those rents with a little bit of work, and we may have to right away because we talked to all the tenants. And one of them's like, oh, I don't pay rent. And we're like, what do you mean? It's like, well, my son got sick or my dad got sick and we stopped paying rent and we didn't have to. So we'll see what happens with this. I knew there might be some issues, but it sounds like everybody living there is kind of related and knew the seller. So if they're actually paying rent or not, we shall see. Worst case scenario, if we have to get them to leave, we can fix up the houses, re-rent them for much more. So even $1,000 a month is like the cheapest house for rent in this entire area. So a house for $600 is unheard of. And then there's a possible redevelopment as well, which I went over and showed everything going on. I have no plans to do that, maybe in the future, but for right now, my plan is to keep it as it is. If things really explode around there and things happen like the city thinks they will, then maybe I'd think about probably selling it. I don't know if I want to be a developer, but we can cross that bridge when it happens. But again, I don't have to have that development happen for it to be a good deal. And we may or may not increase rents and then refinance to pay off the private money and even get some of those proceeds back from the 1031 exchange. So that is one of the cool things about 1031. You can use your cash to buy the new property. You can refinance the new property, get a new loan on it and get some of that cash out. And that's perfectly legal with the 1031 exchange. All right, now I'm going to show you the cap rate calculator real quick. All right, here's the cap rate calculator on my site, investformore.com. Just go to investformore.com, and you can see up here the tabs, the calculators. We have rental, property, cash flow, cash on cash, cap rate, flipping calculator, even a BRRRR calculator, 1031 exchange, all kinds of cool stuff. But you can just go down right here. It's super easy, and you enter two of the three of these numbers, and you can come up with a value. So I'm going to do another video on this. It's more in depth at some point, but for right now, cap rate is basically your net operating income with your cap rate, which is a percentage based on market rates, to equal your property value. So you need your annual net income. We'll do that first. So $3,500 are my rents per month, which is $42,000. We'll put this in here, even though technically that may not be a net number. I don't know if that's net yet. I'm sure there'll be some expenses, but just to be easy, we'll put that in here. Cap rate. Now, cap rate changes based on the property type. So if this property was a fully leased Wendy's with a 20-year lease, it'd probably have like a 5.5 cap rate. But since it's 3 beat-up houses in a commercial property, it's probably more like a 7 or 8 cap rate. And the higher the cap rate, the less the property's worth. So we'll put 7 in here to start with, and boom. See, it tells us what the property's worth, and the annual right here. So if it's a 7 cap and our annual income is really $42,000, the property's worth $600,000. Now, if it's an 8 cap, it's worth $525,000. Now, if our income is only $35,000 because we have a few expenses, then it's worth $437,000. So as you can see, a lot of this affects the value. Now, we could probably rent this place if it was all repaired, fully rented. $5,000 is not unheard of, which would make it, whoops, we want to multiply by 12. See what I did right there? 5,000 a month times 12, 60,000. Oh, not 600. Wow, this property's worth a lot. There we go. That would make it worth $750,000 at an 8 cap. But if it was all leased and in better shape, we're probably looking at a 7 cap or maybe even less. So you can see the possibilities to increase value here are tremendous if done right. So it's not the end of the world if those tenants move out. We have to fix up the properties, re-rent them. At this point, it would be tough, but we could take our $850,000 and refinance it, usually at 75% loan to value. We might be able to get a $637,000 loan on the property. It would be tricky because it's mixed use with houses and commercial. It can be done, but it would be tricky. And 0.75 of the value is pretty common. So we could get a $637,000 loan minus my other loan, which is, I think this is how much it is. I could take out $397,000 in cash on this property, which is almost as much as I bought it for. So now you see why I bought this property that is not the prettiest or the nicest, but it has a lot of potential. And this, if it has actual development potential, would go down even more. So if it was a 6, we just have $1 million property. So that's really the beauty of commercial real estate, what we've done with a number of our other commercial purchases, including the big 68,000 square foot building I'm in right now. So thank you guys for watching. Kind of a long video. I wanted to include a lot of different information on it. Check out investformore.com for our calculators. I have a list of all our rentals, a list of all our flips as well. Check out our other videos of our other commercial rentals. I have a playlist for that. Just search Invest for More in Rental Properties playlist. It'll pop right up. And if you have any comments, we'd love to see those. Any questions, please leave them. We appreciate it when you give us a thumbs up. That helps us out. And any new subscribers, thank you for signing up and joining. We welcome you, and hopefully you'll enjoy our content from now on. Thanks a lot, and we'll be back with much more.